Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another video. Today we'll be looking at the Netherlands explained, smartest country in the world. And I thought, my opinion would probably be interesting because I am the neighbor of the Netherlands. I am from Belgium. So let's see what how they'll explain the Netherlands, or as like we in Belgium like to call it, Belgium but worse. And people in the Netherlands, you know it to be true. You know it to be true. But anyway, let's just jump into it, right? Let's just jump into it. All right. First off, I know I keep pausing all the time whenever I react to videos, but what's the history behind klompen? People call it klompen. These wooden shoes, they're not comfortable at all. I've worn them once. It is ass. Just wear leather shoes or something. I don't know the history behind it. We also sell a lot of them. I remember when I used to live in Brussels, and on Independence Day, we would see them everywhere, which I guess makes sense considering we got our independence off of the Netherlands, because they were like, "Yo, stay with us," and we were like, "No, I'm not gonna," and then we just said, "No, we're not gonna," and then they were like, "Okay." Well, there was a bit of fighting. They got kicked out. Also, Britain was involved in France, if I remember correctly. I say remember correctly, like as if I was there. But anyway, sorry, let's continue on. I do have to say,
very warm.
It's a very beautiful country.
Welcome to you all. We're back with episode number 2 on our journey.
Okay, recognize it. Let's see if I can recognize every flag. Thailand, Swiss, Romania, Belgium, USA, Norway, France, South Africa, UK, Israel, Brazil, Germany, Italy, Croatia. I'm gonna say the Netherlands, because there's no sigil for like Serbia or maybe Slovakia. Anyway, Sweden, Austria, Spain. Oh yeah, this is Iceland, by the way, and Portugal. See, dude, I'm so good because of all the map games that I play.
We're visiting the Netherlands because,
Whoa.
why not? My name is Kenan, and I'll be your host here today. But before we get into things, let's make one thing crystal clear.
All right.
This is not Holland.
Holland is a region within the Netherlands. I think somewhere up top in here. Again, my foreign geography, absolute ass.
Yes, you heard me right. If you're saying Holland, you're doing it wrong. Holland was earlier referred to as a common name for the two provinces, North Holland and South Holland.
Oh,
but
I was kind of
January
off.
2020, the Dutch government officially dropped the nickname of the country. So now there's just the Netherlands. Okay? Well, it actually always was, but
Also, wasn't the Holland region artificially created? Maybe that's why that became the nickname, because people were like, hey, yo, we just conquer land over here in Europe, but this motherfucker right here decided, let me just dig up some land instead. And that's maybe why this nickname stuck. I don't know.
The home of the windmills and tulips.
Also bikes. A lot of bikes.
But believe it or not, there is so much more to this country.
Drugs.
Like being the healthiest people in the world.
Like I said, drugs.
In regards to diets. Now, how is that possible with all the cheese that they eat? Or being the most physically active population of Europe?
Wait, did he just ask how is it possible to be the healthiest because of all the cheese? Which, understandable, it's not that healthy. And all the physical exercise that they do.
Well, that one is pretty obvious. It's because they ride bikes all freaking day.
Yeah, even like the Prime Minister rides bikes to his job.
Their bicycles. Anyway, these giants, yeah, we get into that later on, seem to just...
Also, people from other cities or other countries, do y'all not have bike lanes or something? How come it's over here in Belgium and there's also like a big bike culture? Everyone rides bikes everywhere, at least in the Flemish part. In the Walloon part, which is the southern part of Belgium, we don't really ride bikes because it's a lot more sparsely populated, so everything's further away from each other. But over in Flanders, despite being like about the same size as Wallonia, we have like over twice the population that they do in Wallonia. So I guess it makes more sense. It's more doable because no one's gonna bike for like 40 kilometers to get to their job or something.
You definitely do not want to miss this episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, cheese lovers and liberal people, we present to you the red.
I am all of those things. Except for a gentleman.
White and blue, and apparently orange? The Netherlands.
Also, I do wonder if they're gonna mention that one time that the Dutch people ate their own prime minister. I hope so, because I do want to know the story behind it.
Oh, and hold your breath because
apparently
the sea will try to drown you while you're here.
Because apparently he was like a decent prime minister, and they just like, you know what? Me hungry. They ate him.
Quick country facts. Located in northwestern Europe, this low-lying country, which, by the way, is the
Under the sea level, by the way, a lot of their territory.
The actual meaning of Netherlands is kind of sandwiched between Belgium and Germany, like most countries in Europe, being close to Germany, that
It's not a good thing.
is. With a total area of 41,850 kilometers squared.
They're 1.5
It's one of the
times as big
smaller
as
countries
us,
in
I
Europe,
think.
ranking in on the 32nd place in regards to land area.
Oh, see?
Right above Moldova and just
Belgium.
below, like really just below Switzerland.
There's
The Kingdom
Belgium.
of the Netherlands also includes a few more places in the world. First, there is a place referred
They
to
still
as
have
the
colonies,
Dutch Caribbean
very
that
based.
contains the islands of Bonaire, Saint Eustatius,
So I guess they don't abuse the people there as much anymore,
and
because you're not
Saba.
allowed to,
Then there's a
apparently.
few more islands that separately belong to the kingdom and go under the name of the ABC Islands, named Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire again. Then there's also the island named Sint Maarten. The North Sea is
Sint
located to the
Maarten.
north and west of the Netherlands, and it's continually eating the land itself. In fact, there is a Dutch saying, God made the earth, but the Dutch made Holland. And yes, I know, I said there was no such thing as Holland, but they're referring to the provinces I mentioned earlier, which
See, I knew it.
is where
I'm
most
so
of
smart.
Dutch people live nowadays. But don't get it twisted
Most?
here. The country is called the Netherlands, nothing else. But what did they mean by that saying? Well, in fact, almost a third of the Netherlands is below sea
Yeah, they started that shit way early, like in the 19th or even 18th century. I think the beginning of the 19th century.
level. And if it wasn't for the people,
Like
the
1814
Dutch
or something?
country
I don't know.
wouldn't even be there today. The Dutch came out strong,
They're like, hey, yo, let me dig up this sea. And then they dug up this sea, and they're like, yo, I'm gonna live on this bitch.
fighting the sea itself
they
by
lived on
building
this
a
bitch.
series of canals, dams, dikes, and pumping stations
They're
that over
weird
the
people
years
like that.
made it possible for the water to go through the country rather than over it. And today, there are more than 4,400 kilometers of dikes, rivers, and canals
Can't say that anymore, my dude.
shielding the low-lying country.
Canals?
This is also the reason for
That's a
all
slur
the
now.
windmills you see around the country. They were simply used to drain the land of water and help the Dutch survive. Oh, and there's 3 major rivers that cross the country to help with the flow of the water.
Yeah, one of them's
They're
your
named
mom.
the Meuse, the Scheldt, and the Rhine. So, with whatever land surface the Dutch had
Oh, Star Fortress. I played a U4.
remaining, they had
Dude,
to
they
be
look so
creative with
cool
it
from
and find
above.
innovative solutions for everything. And I guess they did, because they have about 17.5 million people living in this area. Something that makes the Netherlands the most densely populated country in the European Union, and in fact, one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Dutch is the official language
Yeah,
of the
no
country.
wonder
A language
that they had to like build more land. they were running out of space. The Germans had another idea on how to get more
more
space.
similar to German.
Maybe the Dutch were more right because they get to keep their territory.
Anything.
Well,
Dutch or
Germans
Netherlandic,
lost it
as it
all.
can also be called, but probably shouldn't, is also spoken in Belgium with a bit of a dialect, but here it's called Flemish. Most
Yep.
people in the country also speak English and often a bit of German or French as well. Then there's Frisian, which
it's mostly French though. Let me get back here. The Dutch-speaking community, the German-speaking community is mostly in here, around the open region. We also call they also call themselves Oost-Belgian. It's just a German name for East Belgium. We got this territory off of the Germans in World War One, and a slight bit of it in World War Two, I think. And they still speak German there. I had to do like a test recently. For my German, I had to do like an exam for my work because I work at foreign affairs in Brussels, and I had to go. I live here. I had to go all the way through the country, 3-hour train ride, 3 and a bit. to go to Open to do like an oral test for like 20 minutes and then get back home. But yeah, they still speak German there.
It's in Belgium with a bit of a dialect.
But most people, we in the Flemish part, we just mostly learn French and mostly use either Dutch or French to communicate with each other. Not a lot of people speak German. We have quote unquote mandatory. I had mandatory German classes in high school, but you could definitely tell the German level was way lower than the French level.
But here it's called Flemish. Most people in the country also speak English and often a bit of German or French as well. Then there's Frisian, which is spoken in the northern Friesland region. Also, it's worth mentioning that the Afrikaans language of South Africa is basically Dutch with
a thick ass accent. You can kind of guess what the South Africans are talking about, but it sounds kind of drunk.
Freaking twist. The religion of the Netherlands is kinda Roman Catholics, but I say kinda because only about 20% of the population identify with this religion. Actually, about half of the country's population don't identify with any particular religion at all. Today, the Netherlands embodies the liberal middle road of having both.
If you have to live in Europe, you don't believe in God anymore.
Freedom of religion as well as freedom from religion. And there's a strong growth of atheism, which can be described as a faith without a religion.
Yeah, like basically believing, oh, there's something out there, but I don't know what. We'll figure it out when we die.
So basically,
which is kind of morbid, but also cool.
A person saying, I don't believe in God, but I do think there is something out there. The flag of the Netherlands consists of 3 horizontal striped lines, with the colors red, white, and blue.
It used to be orange.
In the early days, the red stripe was actually orange to symbolize the Prince of Orange, which the rebel province fought under in the Independence War against Spain between the years 1568 and 1648. But since red was easier to see at sea, how do you like that pun? They changed the orange to red. And so,
That's strangely practical from a kingdom. Usually they don't go for practical. Usually they go for annoying.
These have been the official color since the 19th of February 1937 when Queen Wilhelmina made the decision. However, most of us have seen the orange color still being representative of the Netherlands, especially in different sport events. So what's up with that? The simple answer to that orange color refers to the Dutch royal family, the House of Orange-Nassau.
Orange-Nassau or is it Oranje-Nassau?
And their ancestor, William of Orange, who
Willem van Oranje
was the founding father of the Netherlands. But this kind of turns us into the history segment of things, so let's jump right in there, shall we? History segment. Alright, so try to keep up now because we have a lot to cover and I am running out of space with this script. But for the purpose of history, let's bring ourselves back to the prehistoric times of roughly 250,000 BP to a place called the Low Countries. This place is generally understood to include the territory of what today are referred to as the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. This is where we find the first remains of human life in the Netherlands. But
what the fuck does that have to do with the Netherlands? Jesus Christ. I figured they'd go to like the 16th, 17th century and be like, oh, yo, these motherfuckers are being ruled by the Spanish. And they're like, no, I don't like the Spanish. They smell funny. And they declare independence. But no, this motherfucker is going to the prehistoric era.
And the founding of Amsterdam, the greatest planned city of Northern Europe. This city has always been well known in history and played a very central part in the history of the Netherlands. Then, in 1568, Spain came to ruin all the fun. With the Spanish king and his governor in the forefront, they tried to dominate the Netherlands and introduce its taxation there. So there was war, then a little bit of war, and some war to that as well. All in all, we're looking
POV, you are every European country ever.
At 80 years worth of war against Spain until 1581, where the United Provinces declared their independence from Spain. Then comes the discovery period, or the golden age of colonialism, if you so will. And boy, oh boy, was the Dutch a force to be reckoned with here.
Dude, they committed the coolest war crimes. They destroyed the most lives. They were impressive.
They expanded all over the world and discovered new lands left and...
But then all their land got stolen by the UK, mostly.
From America to Asia, Africa...
Because, what was it? New York used to be New Amsterdam or
South
something?
America, the Dutch had colonized them all. So by the mid-17th century, they were actually the biggest maritime power in Europe. Yeah, suck on that, Spain! One of the more known
Suck all
stories
these.
is the one of how Director General of the Dutch West India Company, Peter Minuit, bought the entire Manhattan Island for $24.
Oh,
But is
fuck.
it true though? No, it's
Yeah,
not.
I figured.
Story has it Peter
$24 though?
offered some
Damn.
trinkets and glass, which with today's value would be around $24, in exchange for ownership of the land to some natives he ran into. Peter felt like a boss, obviously, since he had done the deal of, well, ever, but the deal didn't turn out that well in the end. First, the natives who sold him the land didn't actually own it. Sorry, Peter,
Oopsie.
you've been scammed. And also, the Dutch turned out to have very little interest in colonizing the area after all. This led to the English naval force simply sailing into the harbor in 1664 and took over New Amsterdam without firing a single shot.
Oh.
Charles II of
You can just do that? Dude, maybe I should get a boat, go to some random ass country, just be like, mine shit. Apparently it
England
works.
then later gave the territory to his brother James II of England, the Duke of York, and the land was
Also, why are all these historical people so ugly?
later named
I mean, I should know. Look at me.
New York.
But still,
The Netherlands then started a slow but constant economical grroth and
I guess it's incest.
implemented
It usually
important
is.
constitutional reforms, which led them to be a liberal
They're so inbred, they might as well be a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich or something.
and modern state. In World War I, the country remained neutral. But in World War II, like most of the European countries,
They didn't really have
were
a
invaded
choice.
by German troops in 1940. After
Yep.
a few years under terror of the Nazis, the whole country
They also fell in like a few weeks, right?
began to suffer the burden of war. So when the Nazis
They
tried to
barely got
incorporate
any
the Netherlands
territory
into the
back.
Third Reich, they fought back. After the difficult years of trying to reconstruct the country right after World War II, the Netherlands had exponential economic growth in the second half of the 20th century, and today, they're one of the most developed and wealthiest countries in the world.
But they are also Dutch, which kind of sucks.
Fun facts. So what's some fun facts about the Netherlands? Well, for starters, Dutch men are the tallest in the world. They have been on top for
Dude, I'm 1 meter 77. You know how weird it is to be like next to a country where the average is like 6 feet? That's the average over there.
quite some time now, with an average length of 1.83 meters, but the women aren't exactly short either, averaging at 1.69 meters,
Nice.
only losing out to the women of Latvia. Then there is this absolutely fascinating fact about this country. Did you know that the carrots are orange because of the Dutch? Back in the 10th century, the vegetable was actually white or purple.
Yo, that's much cooler. Purple.
As you know, orange is a big deal in the Netherlands. So, as a tribute to William the Orange, the Dutch farmers tried to make their carrots orange. And
Can you buy purple carrots?
we all know the results of that. Then there's the flowers, or more specifically, the tulips.
Oh yeah, there used to be like an entire crisis because of it. There was like an entire speculation market. Tulips would be so expensive, and then all of a sudden, the entire economy for tulips crashed, and with it, the Dutch
There
economy.
is an understatement that these are a big part of the Netherlands. But did you know that about 75% of the entire world's flower bulbs are exported from the Netherlands?
Oh, that I
Pretty
did not know.
crazy when you think about it. As we mentioned earlier, the Dutch have been a really clever people, using their creativity to find ways to save their land from the sea trying to
And also slavery. But then again, they are Europeans. It's in our blood.
drown them.
No, actually, pretty much every people did some fucked up shit. That's the weird part of history, right? You either get enslaved or you enslave. There's no in between. There has never been a single group of people and not a single population that's big enough or existed long enough that didn't either get enslaved or enslave other people themselves. That's so weird, right?
One of the things
In fact, it makes it funnier or like more interesting, the fact that there's relatively little slavery these days. There obviously is, and even like a modern version of slavery, like the prison system in America. But it's interesting that there's so little relatively with how much it used to be. Like entire economies used to be based on the free labor of slavery.
they made
let's
are
continue.
windmills, and there are actually over 1,000 of them throughout the country.
Is it
And
just me,
speaking
or
of
does
being creative,
1,000 windmills
the city
not
of
sound that
Amsterdam is in
impressive?
fact completely built on top of over 1 million wooden poles, which extends around 12 meters into the ground. The city was built on a very wet, swampy land, so talk about trying to see the possibilities instead of focusing on things
Also, what's up with capitals being built on swamplands?
being
Every
impossible.
goddamn capital
And you
built
didn't
on
know, they
swamplands.
love bikes. They love them so much that the Dutch own more bicycles than any other country in the world. About 22 million of them are present in the country, so that's more than one per person on average. Did I mention that they love bikes? So what famous people does this country have? And what things are they known for in the world? Well, besides bikes, tulips, and windmills, there are a few more things that they should have credit for. Well, for starters, it's home of the world's first stock exchange, established
Selling
in
bitcoins,
1602
hell
by
yeah.
the Dutch East India Company. If you've ever been to the Netherlands, chances are small you've missed that they like
Dude,
cheese.
I want to make
The
cheese.
Dutch have a long
Look at this shit. The forbidden hockey puck. Imagine, dude, imagine slinging that shit on an ice rink. Bam! And you just obliterate someone's legs with it.
history of cheese making, but the most famous one is without a doubt the
Gouda.
Gouda cheese. Then there is Vincent van Gogh. Most of us have heard that
Vincent van Gogh.
this extremely famous painter. He's one of the most influential figures in Western art,
Also,
and he
I
made
forgot his
over
ear or something.
2,000
I don't know.
artworks in his lifetime. His most notable works being Starry Night, Sunflowers, and The Siesta. This country is just amazing!
Alright,
And it would
cool,
take me
buddy,
a
cool.
day to tell you every single thing about this place.
Relax.
We could mention Anne Frank, football, Rembrandt, licorice, beer, and
I mean, Anne Frank's kind of dead, though. Kind of like the prime minister that they ate. That's a shame they didn't mention.
probably a million
that.
other things.
Also, beer's better in Belgium. Just saying. We didn't make Heineken. Heineken sucks ass.
As well.
Just saying.
But the space on my script has come to an end yet again. So,
God damn it.
what did you think of the
That was
video?
a lot of
Did
it.
you
Oh,
learn
there's
anything?
even one-
If you're from the Netherlands,
Of Belgium. And I'm just saying, despite being a larger country, there's a lot more to be said about Belgium. 20 minutes compared to like the 12 minutes that this motherfucker has been talking about in this video. Could mean that Belgium is objectively better. But I might be biased. Anyway, I do hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you did. Hopefully I'll see you next time. And hopefully you have a nice day. Bye-bye.